Welcome to Belmont Poetry Night. I'm Monica Korde, your host and the Poet Laureate of Belmont, California. We meet on the third Tuesdays of every month to celebrate the spoken word as makers, listeners, and admirers of poetry. We come with featured guests sometimes and an open mic always. We may still not be at our favorite physical venue, the Belmont Library, but since the pandemic, we have transitioned to this virtual space, and I am grateful this allows us to welcome poets and listeners from across the globe. Thanks for joining in and zooming in. Please share in the chat where you are joining us from. Would be great to know. And to open this evening celebrating Women's History Month, it gives me great pleasure to offer this glorious poem with kind permission from the poet herself. The poem is a dactylic verse called Moon for Our Daughters, and it is written by poetess Annie Finch. Moon for our daughters. Moon that is linking our daughters' choices and still more beginnings, threaded alive with our shadows. These are our bodies' own voices, powers of each of our bodies, threading unbroken, begetting flowers from each of our bodies. These are our spiraling borders, carrying on your beginnings, chaining through shadows to daughters, moving beyond our beginnings, moon of our daughters and mothers. Thank you. And I'm so grateful to Annie Finch to let me voice her words tonight. Like many of her works do, this poem also gives voice to female and earth-centered spirituality, and Finch deftly crafts this verse to reveal connections between mothers and daughters, symbolized through the moon. And the poem speaks as much to the body as it does to the mind. Thank you for listening. As I invite you now in honoring and celebrating a month dedicated to women who have contributed to the making of history, culture, and society, I also want to take this opportunity to recognize women around us and invite you to do the same, to celebrate all women who have been sisters, healers, keepers, and queens while continuing to support and stand with each other. And to further this conversation through poetry and art, I have with me the gracious and multifaceted Diane Lee Moomey as my featured poet and visual artist for this evening. Let me share about her. Diane has lived and wandered around the US and Canada and now lives in Half Moon Bay, California, where she co-hosts a monthly series, Coastside Poetry. She has also taught poetry appreciation to classes of older adults through Foothill College's Disability Resource Program. A regular reader at San Francisco Bay Area poetry venues, Diane's work has appeared in The MacGuffin, Light, Think, Mezzocamin, McQueen's Quinterly, Poe Talk, Caesura, and Red Wheelbarrow, and been nominated for 3 Pushcart prizes. She has received awards and honorable mentions from Soul Making Keats and the Aina Coolbrith Circle. She is also the author of 4 poetry collections, the newest of which, Make for Higher Ground, is available now from Barefoot Muse Press. Diane is also a watercolorist and collage artist, an experience that both seeds and is seeded by her poetic imagery. Such a pleasure to have you, Diane. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm just so honored to be here. For this opportunity to talk about my twin passions, poetry and art. So, let's see, I think you wanted me to start with this poem about my mother's mother.
Sure, yes, please, Diane, that would be amazing.
This is actually from a photograph, one of the very few ekphrastic poems I've ever written. So, old black and white photograph. Portrait with paper bag for my mother's mother. Your fingers in the book to mark your place, but Perry Mason's out of mind for now. You're leaning slightly forward in the straight-backed kitchen chair you've dragged beneath the boughs of elms. Behind the lake's a streak of dark between two lighter ones. The weeds are long and won't be mowed till fall, so blurry grasses nearly touch the lens. The light is strong, you squint. This camera lens, your head reveals it, cocked to one side, as well as your wide eyes. Your lips curved up around a long forgotten word tell it. This lens is carried by someone you could never live without. You wear a 40s dress that flaps around your feet, while on your head's a shopping bag. It's square at top. The edge is rolled to make a brim. A paper shopping bag. But this is not because you have no hats, because a lady has hats, plenty of hats, made or bought for every task. But maybe all of yours are battened down in boxes, still unpacked from days of travel. And this offering from A&P, this lovely paper sack was right beside the chair. The milk and bread, the cream of wheat and crackers put away. And you were ready, just so very ready to carpe the sunny diem at Lake Champlain. Thank you.
Remarkable, Diane. What a poem to open your reading with. And let us take a few minutes here, and if you can indulge us into your artistry. I love how this poem meditates on a single moment captured in time and words, and it almost paints a picture for us about a specific individual, your grandmother. Knowing that you are also a visual artist, and there is a collection of paintings, and I will share this with our audience shortly. Paintings with female figures in them, many of them represented in groups of 3, although sporadically and in completely different ways. I see that women are central to both the art forms you engage with. My question to you is, with regards to women as the subject of your art, is there a reason you move from specificity in your poems to non-specificity in your paintings?
I think I just want both in my creative life, and that split is the way it fell out. One thing for sure, when I did write archetypal poems, they were not well received. Editors complained that they were too abstract, and I wanted my poems to be heard and received. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself, looking at myself in the mirror. Oddly, my artwork has never been criticized for that, and most of it is quite non-personal, centered around archetype, myth, and fable, and is idealized. I think at this point we're going to start looking at the images. For me, these represent subjects to meditate on, or are images of states of consciousness to which I aspire. Where women are depicted, they or we are not meant to represent everyday individuals. Within the larger Queen Sisters Healers series, which can be seen on my website, the Queen of Cups collection represents archetypes inspired by the eponymous card of the tarot deck. Some, like the Sisters Healers painting seen here, represent a collective or a conflation of several individuals directly inspired by me and my two sisters. Another painting, Keeper of Oceans, is one of these two. The three female figures can be seen either as a queen and her attendants, or as three different aspects of the single queen. The Suit of Cups in Tarot represents feeling and relationship, and the Three of Cups, depicting three women dancing together, suggests loving time spent with friends. The next painting, Celebration, was inspired by this Three of Cups card and by an afternoon at a craft fair with two friends, where we tried on beautiful batik creations in the protective circle of La Honda Gardens, surrounded by the dark boughs of the redwood forest, which I'll refer back to later. Technically, I love working with the wet into wet technique of watercolor, where plain water is laid down into a shape and various pigments are dropped into it. If you look closely at this painting, you can see how the colors blend into each other. I've used some special effects too, like salting, which creates the mottling or the speckling. Kind of controlled chaos, I would say. So we could close the PowerPoint now. Yeah, great.
Sure.
Okay. And
if we can, Diane, go back to your poems again and referring to my question about specificity, if you have some more poems to share with us, that would be great.
I do, yes. With regard to that exact question, here are two poems that illustrate it. The first, again, which I'll come back to again later and refer to again, is a conflation of many grandmother and auntie images all rolled into one poem. The second is specifically about my own mother. Okay, so here's Her Screen Porch. Her screen porch had a wicker chair with yellow chintz that curved to fit her. Cabbage roses curved around her, mother's mother. Wooden floor was red, then blue, then brown, then red again, its peeling paint revealing layers, fancies of all the farmers' wives, the mothers, mothers, mothers gone before, repainted every other spring. The floor that sagged beneath the weight of all their decades. Every mother, having daily painted, pickled, scrubbed, would leave her steamy kitchen, take her hour in a wicker chair to study through the wire mesh once taught across its wooden frame. She'd watch who's walking hand in hand and who's alone, who's got a baby carriage. Summer days, I'd visit. Summer evenings, call to supper. Sticky hands, child's hands, slapped that screen door open, slammed it closed again. Don't slam the door, wash your hands, take a plate, stop running. Running round the L of porch, cornering the house, to table set behind the vine of Dutchman's pipe, our privacy from street and yellow jackets. Eat out there and sleep out there, Such quiet streets, a rusty screen's enough to barricade us well from stings and bites, the darkest dangers of those summer nights. Then this
That was
next one,
wonderful, Diane.
thank you, thank you. This next one, Carousel, is for my own mother. Still you ride the dapple gray. Your own gray locks are ruffled by the breeze of stately turning. Crimson wheel is spinning round a center of mirrored tessery, flashing tails and faces, scent of cotton candy. You could get off. You may have wanted something else. The purple unicorn, that pearly horn, the tail swept high across an arching back, a gilded halter. Instead, the gray mare. That calliope is missing all the high notes. Painted lions chase but never catch. They rise and fall and rise. Plays Let Me Call You Sweetheart, Daisy, Daisy, and the skater's waltz, while I, the daughter, stand and wave beside the wheel, a verge of hardened earth and grass. You circle close with hands around your pole and smile a small smile. Maybe it's not too late to change your mount. I see the unicorn is still unridden. Or perhaps you could get off. It doesn't stop though. Not music, nor the wheel, nor me, beyond the railing, waving, waving.
Wow, beautiful.
Thank you.
Such a wonderful piece that is. And that brings me to this quote from Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. And there's this character called Lily Briscoe in the novel, and these are her thoughts where she's conflicted in her mind about who she has to live as, and she's she's this two people, an artist and the person she is, and she's conflicted in being what she wants to be. And this quote reads as, he was really, Lily Briscoe thought, in spite of his eyes, but then look at his nose, look at his hands, the most uncharming human being she had ever met. Then why did she mind what he said? Women can't write, women can't paint. What did that matter coming from him, since clearly it was not true to him, but for some reason helpful to him? And that was why he said it? Why did her whole being bow like corn under a wind and erect itself again from this abasement, only with a great and rather painful effort? She must make it once more. There's the sprig on the tablecloth. There's my painting. I must move the tree to the middle. That matters, nothing else. Could she not hold fast to that, she asked herself, and not lose her temper and not argue, and if she wanted revenge, take it by laughing at him? And this quote brings me to my next question, Diane, talking about woman versus artist dichotomy. Does the woman have to give up her artistic vision in favor of becoming a wife, a mother, or becoming something the society wants her to be? What are your views on this?
What I feel holds true for men and women artists or poets or musicians is this. In this society, if you put your art first, you have to make a lot of hard choices about the rest of your life. A creative life requires lots of solitude. Occasionally, a spouse is willing to support the creative process by taking up the slack. In my cohort, it's been most often wives who would do this for husbands, not necessarily the other way around. In my case, though, it meant not following a career track, but simplifying my life and living on part-time jobs. With regards to a family, I made the opposite choice from my mother. In her day and in mine, mothers, but not fathers, were mostly on call 24/7, which really makes solitude almost impossible. I'm seeing, though, that in the generation that would be my children's, if I had had children, men and women co-parent. So I think that might open up different possibilities for a creative life. I don't know.
Yeah, that does sound, I mean, and we know it, that it is sometimes very challenging to make these choices and make these decisions. And if I may share this another quote by French painter Edgar Degas. And he says, art is not what you see, but what you make others see. Being the visual artist that you are literally painting with words, making us see what you visualize. And I'm curious to know if there are any parallels that exist between both these art forms, poetry and painting, that you engage with.
These two activities are truly left hand and right hand to me. I could not create one without the other. In fact, on my dedicated weekly art day, I set up both a painting station and a poetry station, and I go from one to the other all day. Compared to the painting, my poetry tends to be much more individualized and down to earth in subject and tone, and is usually about everyday humans and our concerns. And as I mentioned before, I rarely compose poems about a specific individual. Exceptions are the ones that I just read, you know, Portrait with Paper Bag and Carousel. And then the one like Her Screen Porch, of course, which is the composite. And then pieces like Henna, which I'll read next, contemplate a collective sisterhood where the speaker is the source of the musing which wonders about the unknown women who are also painting themselves with henna at this very moment. So, whoops.
It'll be a delight to hear it. Henna.
Henna. Yes, let me just. The mylar cones arrive from India, the red and silver, green and gold like silk of saris, wrapped and filled with new and ancient paste. My California kitchen, plastic tablecloth and paper towels will keep the stain where it belongs. Pink and white as I am, I'll take my place. A line of black-haired women, eons long, ancestors not my own. Our toes are spread apart with cotton balls. Nails are trimmed and oiled. Skins are clean and blank as futures unforetold, ready for the greenish paste that turns my pallid nails the color of madrone, that paints the ancient wedding patterns on a bride-to-be somewhere across the date line, each brown dot another turn of our wheel.
Wow, that poem is so heartening, Diane. I love the word choices you make there, and it's so soothing to listen to you also when you're reading that.
Thank you.
And changing gears here slightly, a large part of your artwork as well as your poetry draws from nature. And nature has always been personified as a woman, a personification of nature that focuses on the life-giving and nurturing aspects of nature by embodying it in the form of the mother. So Mother Nature, as we always call her. How does the artist and poet in you see nature as?
Nature to me is definitely a two-sided entity. There's the sweet Mother Nature that we all like to write songs and poems about, gardens and lovely tilled fields, peaceful meadows and woodlands full of deer and rabbits, delicately falling snow and rain. Then there's the dangerous side, the realm of the dark god and goddess, the untamed and often bloody wild, where it's not safe to go wandering about alone. There one can find predators, lightning, volcanoes, earthquakes, cyclones and hurricanes, sub-zero cold. So if we go back to this painting Celebration, which we saw earlier, the dark boughs that you can see outside the bright, charmed garden represent the dangerous aspect of that natural realm. So at least for the moment that this painting represents, these three sisters, friends are safe. Okay. So we can close that image now. And much of my writing is about the interface between human and nature. And many of the poems stem from actual events, as in the two that I'll read now. Heron, Improbably on Main Street, is a reflection on our interference in natural patterns and the speaker's small epiphany about her part in it. Sardines Are Running was inspired by an early afternoon at Miramar many years ago on a very warm November afternoon. Heron, Improbably on Main Street. A heron, blue, great, flew over her roof today in heron fashion. The first she'd seen to levitate above her carapace of asphalt shingles, gray. Where once Ohlone lived is pavement, is honking cars a glitter. Heron, the first she's seen this far from marsh or meadow, so far from creek or estuary, so far from meat and fish, flew in heron manner, cawed once, orange legs trailing, the wings as broad as bird is long, the plumy neck recurved, that odd boneless S. This heron flew over the house, veered west beyond the chimney, cawed, disappeared, left human being marveling and somewhat cheered at first, nature. Then she knew, frightening, all about the fall from grace that's made the sighting of a heron now and here rare as winter lightning.
Oh, like an exquisite piece again, Diane.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Sardines are running, says the stranger, pointing, while in low surf, 8 curved backs bob at fish we cannot see. Nearly close enough to touch, the soft black fins, the almost smile, dolphins trolling north toward the harbor, perhaps aware of being watched. Sardines, she says again, one of a line of us strangers talking to each other, telephoto lenses and camera phones in hand, our sandy walks paused. The wild, for once, comes close to land and we strangers smile and click as we do for our children splashing in the shallows, point and click, wanting to make the wild our own.
Wow. Love the vivid descriptions and the way the pieces are taking us through all that you see.
Thank you. Thank you. Some of the human and nature poems are just joyful word pictures about finding oneself in nature and among people at the same time. So this one is about the day after Thanksgiving, probably 5 or 6 years ago. So Black Friday at the ocean. Some of us have chosen not to heed the siren call of myriad malls that grace our land and cluster now atop the shaggy bluffs by Pillar Point, tide pools below. Above's an opalescent sky whose tender grays I might essay with watercolor. Between the auburn wings of hunting hawks. We're families and strangers walking off debauch of yesterday, perhaps, that day of too much roasted bird of good red wine. Some of us accompanied by hounds plumper than they were on Wednesday. Dogs made round by treats dropped quietly beneath the crocheted edges of white tablecloths. Gifts of obligation for the season, still waiting to be found, or were bought online this morning by early risers deep in second cups of coffee, or maybe bought this evening when sandy shoes are set beside the back door, laptops opened, dogs collapsed in gratitude beside the fire. Later. For now, bright finny boards are ferried up and down the crumbling slopes. A girl in yellow tutu climbs a cypress tree, and seekers of shellfish forage on the rocks following the tide, which, according to the charts, will reach its nadir at 2:22 p.m. exactly.
Wow. The visual treats in your poems are endless, Diane. That
Thank you
is
so much.
so amazing. And it's wonderful to just scan through all of that and visualize what you're taking us through. And you move through each of your poems with such a keen eye, meandering, observing, and revealing to us what you see. And we have also spoken about this line falling from the ceiling experience. If I don't know if anyone else resonates with it, but finally, before we close this segment, can you please share with us how your poems come to you?
They can be sparked by almost anything and very unexpectedly. Sometimes, as you mentioned, a juicy line can just appear out of nowhere, drop from the ceiling, as Annie Dillard put it in The Writing Life, which I recommend highly to everyone. Whatever you're writing, Annie Dillard's The Writing Life is a fabulous read. For me, once that line has fallen into my lap, it might be years before a complete poem takes shape from that. But I'm patient, and I have entire files of cool words and excellent start and end lines. I love working with meter and rhyme, both with received and with nonce forms. Freeway Exit, which I'll read in a moment, is one of those nonce forms. Metered and rhymed, or slant rhymed, which is one of my favorite ways to work, but not belonging to a specific form, like a sonnet or a villanelle. It came to me as I was driving on the 101, and there were the geese flying low above me. I knew it was a poem right then, and it was done within a week, so go figure. Freeway Exit. Wild geese fly the 101, not quite on these 4 lanes north and 4 south plus median, but above us, a ragged line, its leader purposefully beating wind, long neck reaching, heading east along the exit ramp to Bayfront Park. Cousin geese wait there, surely, enough to make a quorum, enough to form the necessary V for the voyage south. Silent geese, these. What with the tires hiss and thumpings over potholes, what with the whistle of winds around my half-downed window, black beaks seem merely open, but oh, I know they are honking. Thank you.
Simply spectacular, Diane. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking us through this poetic excursion and sharing your gifts with us.
Thank you.
And I'll open up the floor briefly for questions and comments before we close this segment. So I encourage all of you to unmute and share your thoughts with Diane while I share some of her links in the chat, which you can save as well. Please go ahead.
Diane, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful artwork and poetry with us this evening. The images will take me through the rest of my week. They were absolutely stunning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who is this talking? Okay.
This is Lois.
Hi, Lois. I can just see a couple little squares on the screen here. Oh, thank you so much, Lois. Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Diane. This is Cecile Lee. I love all your poems. Thank you for sharing them.
Oh.
They're just written from your heart and from your soul. My question to you is, I also dabble with poetry, not as lovely as yours. Yours are just really very special. And it's really hard to, like what you said, to be an artist, you really need to pretty much devote your time to your craft, to your art. And that's kind of a challenge for most people. And I don't have that luxury. But my question to you is, like, when you have a certain, an idea just, sprouts in your brain, do you just kind of like make a note of it, follow through, and just over time it develops? Or do you just, because my problem is I have so many ideas and then I just kind of like gets shoved in with my teeth.
Yeah. Well, it kind of depends how hard it hits me and where I am. But usually, if I'm out somewhere, then I always carry something with me that I can write in. I have at home. I have journals that are kind of large, and then I have smaller notebooks that I carry. So I write it down at the very least. And then if I'm lucky, I'll have some time before it goes away to let it to kind of spin it around a little bit more. And usually they have to cook. I mean, it's pretty rare that a poem like the Freeway Exit comes fast, But for sure, and this I recommend to everyone. Every morning in coffee and bathrobe, I write in my journal anything. Sometimes a poem will come out. Usually it's my dreams or something. But that habit keeps me fluid, and just knowing that every single morning, that's the only really stable part of my day, is that. And everything that I write has its start pretty much in that journal. So I definitely recommend it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Diane.
Have a great one. Take care.
I wanted to say thank you, Diane. It's always lovely to hear you read. We don't get enough of it. I did for a while. I know you're probably familiar with Brenda Euland's On Writing. And she suggests sitting down first thing in the morning and writing 3 pages. Don't stop, just write. And you start, I don't know what to write, and then suddenly things start coming, which is, I'm sure, exactly what you're talking about. And for anybody who hasn't, it can be a wonderful exercise. I haven't done it in years, but perhaps I should do it again.
Yeah. I mean, there's some days when I'm just paralyzed when it doesn't come, like depending on what happened. I mean, I might get a very early morning phone call that kind of shatters the mood or something. But at the very least, I sit there with it open in front of me and with the pen in my hand and with my coffee right next to me. So if there's anything there, I'm ready. But yes, I'm glad to hear you're going to start doing that again.
Hi, Diane. This is Muriel. Thank you for the wonderful words and rhythms. Also, I loved hearing you say that your art and your poetry are like left hand and right hand for you. If this is too personal, just ignore the question, but could you say, at what age did you decide to devote your life to your art?
I think I was probably in my 20s or so. I looked around and I saw what my contemporaries were doing. And also, well, I mean, this is a little personal, but probably a lot of people here have had the same thing. I had some health issues that meant it would have been very, very difficult for me to stay with a career, like where you have to be online or on deck 24/7. And so in one way that made it easier for me to put my creative life first. But I certainly got lots of criticism for it. But yeah, I would say like in my early 20s or so. That's a very long answer to your question. Sorry.
Diane.
Thank you. It's a brave and wonderful decision, whatever led you to it. Thank you.
Diane, I'm Chloe Wong. I'm new to the group. I have also received some emails from you for the Coastside Poetry. I want to tell you that I am just really filled with your at peace energy that you telegraph through your readings, your writings, and also your paintings. And I love that feeling of peace that comes to me. And I'm not sure if I'm reading it accurately, but it's there. And there's power in that piece. And I just love the way you seem to present it to us so naturally. Your intersections sort of blend and dance with each other. And when you read, there's such a feeling of satisfaction. And I just love that you're modeling that for us. I too am an artist and a poet, and it's very interesting to see another person, blend the two together. So thank you.
Thank you so much for saying so. I do recognize your name from the list. Yeah. I hope to see you in our Zoom room sometime soon.
Okay. All right.
I know there's so much going on these days and so many offerings available that we think that yes, I'm going to do that, and then something else happens. But anyway.
I will definitely try. Now that I've seen you in person and heard you, yes, I'm encouraged to come be in your energy field. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is so wonderful to listen to everyone's thoughts, and there's so much love in the chat also, Diane. I will definitely save a copy, copy of that, and yes, I will be sending you the chat, and you can look through it and and just enjoy the lines that echo through it and the praises that echo through it. And thanks again for what you have offered to us is truly a feast, Diane. Your paintings feeding our eyes and your poems feeding our ears. I shall speak for everyone, and I'm sure they will all agree when I say our soul is nourished and our hearts are full. For me, it has been an absolute joy to curate this evening and to host you. So thanks again.
Thank you. It's been a delight to be here.
And yeah, with that, we are going to stop recording now. Those of you who are in the Zoom room, please stay online for the open mic segment of the evening. To the YouTube audience, thanks for joining in and hope to see you for next month's virtual Belmont Poetry Night. Good night.